Okay. Hello, everyone. So in this video, we are going to talk about doing PhD abroad. So this is one of the most asked question to us, like how I want to do PhD, how to start, where to start, and what are the opportunities do we have, and what after PhD. And there is no straight answer to that question because it varies a lot from university to university, country to country, coast to coast, and it varies a lot. So to give you a brief idea about what it involves in selecting a PhD program abroad, getting selected, and then starting your program, we thought of creating making a video, but it's not a very structured one with a set of questions. I just talk with my dear friend Subash, and I hope this video will be useful for all those who are thinking of getting a PhD from abroad. So I'll start with a very quick intro because that has relevance to what we are going to talk. So I am Aditya. I'm doing PhD from Humboldt University of Berlin in agriculture economics. And I'm also a scientist with Indian Council of Agriculture Research. I used to work at Indian Agriculture Research Institute as agriculture economist, but presently I'm on study leave. And probably Subash, you can introduce yourself and then we can start.
Hello, Aditya. Thank you for the invitation for this conversation. As you said, this is also a most common question I often get regarding how to go about for PhD abroad. So yeah, I also liked the idea of having a conversation about it rather than a presentation so that we could discuss beyond the fixed set of parameters we have. To just briefly introduce myself, I'm Subash. I'm currently pursuing my PhD with Center for Developmental Research, which is with University of Bonn in Germany. I'm also a scientist with ICR National Institute of Agriculture Economics and Policy Research in New Delhi. Currently, I'm also on study leave, and we both belong to the same batch of ARS, which is Agricultural Research Service. Aditya, good to go. Let's start this conversation.
Okay, so let's start from the beginning. So the very first question is, why should we go abroad for getting a PhD? So what is the unique thing about having a PhD from abroad, or what are the advantages? To put it in other words, what are the good, bad, and ugly, if you say so? So can you give a brief overview of why you have opted for a PhD abroad, and if someone wants to opt for it, um, uh, what will be the main advantage according to you, and what are the bats that they should also be aware about?
Mhm. Okay. Uh, as I said, it's the motivation for doing PhD abroad differ from person to person. I could say what were the things which motivated me to pursue my PhD studies
Mm-hmm.
abroad. Uh, First thing is that a lot of the top universities in the world, India has few, but most of the top universities in our world, especially in our discipline, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of foreign countries have a lot of those universities and
Mm-hmm.
studies to offer.
Mm-hmm.
Those place why those top universities? It's not just about the ranking, but they also do kind of frontier research. So
Mm-hmm.
you get ahead of your peers if you're doing your studies in such an university. Of course, you're getting international exposure there. What do you mean by international exposure is not just being in a foreign country, but working and collaborating with people from different countries. For example, the place which I'm now, I have my batchmates are from almost like 20 countries. So that's a huge network of collaboration which I could build
Mm-hmm.
on. It's also a good experience to work in an international setting. It's quite different from our Indian setting, like culturally, the way we work, also the cultural norms and settings from different group of people you work with. This experience and networks actually help in building an if you're planning a job in international organizations,
Mm,
it kinds of build on it. So that's why
yeah.
in most international organizations, they prefer to have people who have done some studies abroad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are the motivations which actually
Mm,
motivated me to pursue a PhD abroad.
mm,
Uh, the bad thing is that it's not that easy.
yeah.
It involves a lot of work. Even how
Yeah.
smart you are doesn't matter. It involves a
Mm,
bit of luck in the sense. For example, when I was applying for PhD, that coincided with the COVID times. So the shortage of fellowships. Most universities were not hiring, and it's also very competitive and challenging.
mm, mm,
Uh, the that's the bad part of it,
yeah.
which is the challenge, which
Mm,
actually, but that's worth it. At the end,
mm,
it's worth it taking
yeah.
going through
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and the process is actually pretty ugly,
Yeah.
but it's just how it is.
Yeah.
But at
Exactly.
the end,
Exactly.
the rewards are good.
Yeah.
How about you, Aditya? What is the motivation you had other than this while applying abroad?
Yeah, most of the things actually overlap. Um, but as you said, every person will have a different motivation to leave the family behind and come over here in a
Mhm.
totally different country where you don't know anyone literally and start your PhD journey. So for me, the most important thing was to understand different work culture,
Mhm.
so how they work, how they it's altogether a different perspective on how they look at the research problem, how they work in team. So all these things is a different exposure and the level of detailing. That's one thing I really admire the universities here and the faculty here, the level of care that they give to even the minor facets of research and how passionate they are, and the work life balance. So these are all different aspects that when you stay here for 3 years, even you may not notice, but you will go out as a different person, and all those traits will help you in future. This is obviously apart from the academic things, which are,
Mhm.
of course, um, uh, very good in terms of what you get to learn. And as you rightly mentioned, the most important thing is the network. So when you go back to India, or when you start your own career in academia, network is that matters, because you want to write a paper or you want to write a proposal, you want to get some grant. In all those aspects, your network helps. Not just in network doesn't mean that you will have someone you can call and ask for a favor. It's not that. You get people to work on your project, you have someone to look at your first draft, and you have experts on every method that you can think of. If you have some 20 people, somebody expertise in contingent valuation, somebody works on impact, somebody is from Africa. If you want to write something on Africa, you can just ping that person. And that sort of network is very useful. Professional networks are the most helpful in life. um, so that's the second advantage. And third is, which is obvious thing, of course, is you get to live in a different country, imbibe the culture, um, learn different things, travel. So all those things are, you can say, as perks, or the
Okay.
additional things that you get. So it's overall it's good, but as you mentioned, one of the difficulties, the financial aspects of it.
Mhm.
Unless you have proper funding, uh, I don't think it's easy for going to a part-time work and maintaining studies. Is not going to be an easy task,
Mhm.
and depending on where you're doing your PhD, it will have its own internal politics. You need to adjust with the department hierarchy, the structures, the structure of the PhD program is completely different from what you have experienced in India. So adjusting to all those may be a bit challenging, but overall, for me, the gains outweigh whatever the negatives that we can think of. Yeah.
Yeah, true.
So,
Something I also like to add is that the kind of
mm,
cross learning which happens,
mm,
because like from India we have a set of things which are taught to us, but
mm,
then you come across your batchmates from different countries who have
yeah.
different life experience and research
Mm,
experience. So that's pretty enriching. For
mm,
example, the way we look into some problem is quite different from way they look into that.
exactly.
Also, like their experience with uh, the field, it's quite
Mm,
different. You have a lot of learnings from different countries,
mm,
which is pretty also pretty interesting of doing study abroad from a pure academic sense.
yeah. So another very, very common question.
Mhm.
I used to put it as like the classical debate on US versus Europe. And you corrected me like it's US versus rest of the world. Uh, so, what is this dilemma? And, or in put it in a different word, what is that differentiates between a US PhD and PhD from say other parts of the world?
Okay, so it's the same, right? When we were planning our
Yeah.
PhDs,
Mm,
it's same like yeah, should be which is the country which you're going to pick for PhD?
yeah. Yeah.
Like that
Basically.
starts with it. But one thing which we always look into is the universities ranking. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Often why US is preferred, I understand is because is that most top universities, top 50 universities, most of them are in US. So it's like from a country perspective, it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, like you might wonder why we are like talking about a country, because the education system quite different from US or Europe and rest of the
Mm-hmm.
world actually.
Mm-hmm.
This the time when we have to apply the kind of language qualifications you required, like other requirements, just like GRE, like also the way it's approached, how the admission process is happening, the
Mm-hmm.
fee structure, everything differs between
Yeah.
this country. They have to pick somewhere, plan it accordingly. So US, one good reason to apply for US is good ranking universities are there.
Mm-hmm.
But one more thing you should consider is that US has a very hard, like so for example, PhD in economics. When I'm PhD in economics or
Yeah.
PhD in
Yeah.
agriculture economics, if you're talking specifically that field, US has a very rigorous
Mm-hmm.
coursework,
Mm-hmm.
which would span to almost 3 years. Plus, then you start your research after third year, so your
Yeah.
PhD would stretch to almost like 5 or 6 years, 5 years if you're really good, or
Mm-hmm.
6 years on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's something you need to keep in mind, like which we also contemplated a lot
Mm-hmm.
while thinking. Also, it's as I said, also getting US is very difficult, especially the
Yeah.
kind of requirements they have. Uh, One thing which I realized, was that, especially for agricultural economics, if you're applying
Mm-hmm.
for positions there, um, we are competing with people from engineering because they don't care what's your background, like basic
Mm-hmm.
degree you have. You're competing with people from general economics, and one of the like cutoff criteria there is the GRE scores.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so and they have very high GRE score requirements. Unless you're good in math, really good in math, or you're really putting a lot of effort, uh, getting a good GRE score is the challenging part.
Mm-hmm.
That you
Mm-hmm.
should be good. So if you're not intuitively good in math or like really good in math, or
Mm-hmm.
keep the US option aside, look for
Yeah.
other options which are much easier to get through. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean that other Europe doesn't have a better university. Europe
Yeah.
do have good universities,
Mm-hmm.
like similar to that of US. Even like there are other countries. When Aditya said uh, like putting the question as US versus Europe, I said no. There are like also other countries which
Yeah.
have
Yeah. Yeah.
really good universities. Singapore has good university. Israel has good university.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so there are like other options too. Japan has good universities. It's like
Mm-hmm.
so there are other countries to have good options. So it's up to you to pick it up at some point of time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Talk to people there.
Mm-hmm.
That's something you have to decide and contemplate on, because this is also something you need to decide before, because every planning you have to do is depending on which system you want to enroll in.
Mm-hmm.
So for US, the conversation is always about GRE, and
Sharing.
yeah, the- recently they said they are waiving off GRE requirements, but they were still using those as biggest
Yeah.
criteria for screening. So which
Yeah.
becomes a bit challenging.
Mm.
There are much more details and nuanced details about what else is required for those countries, but when you select those countries, you should be also keep in mind uh, why those countries, and am I fit into those places. Uh, that's also an important requirement.
Mm. So basically, the difference is that when you just take US and Europe as a case,
Mm-hmm.
the major difference is US has a very high emphasis on coursework,
Mm-hmm.
the academic part of it. As you said, like you need at least 3 years before even thinking about what you want to work on as a research project. But in
Mm-hmm.
Europe, for PhDs, it's more or less the emphasis directly starts from your research, and all the coursework are taught as a supporting thing for enabling you to do your research well. Because
Mm-hmm.
the difference starts from the way they recruit. So US has a very structured program where there is a summer term, there is a winter term, and in the summer term, there will be some PhD vacancies. In the winter term, there will be some vacancies. And many universities, not I'm not generalizing, but many universities in Europe, they don't even have a structured program. Whenever the professor gets some research projects, in that research project, they'll have, say, 5 or 6 PhDs. They immediately advertise, and they can start anywhere in any month. They can start the PhD program because the coursework is just to support your thesis or support your research work, mostly on the methodological aspects. So the exclusive emphasis in Europe is more towards research, whereas US is more of an academic thing. So this brings to the question of like how to select a grad school when you are deciding to do a PhD. This is something a very difficult choice to make, and you cannot say like, okay, I want to do my PhD in Michigan State, and that's all. I don't have a second option. That's not how it works. Because here it's so competitive that if you apply for say 50, you might have 2 or 3 offers at your hand at the end of the application cycle. So while deciding where you want to do your PhD, there are many things to look for. So one is obviously how much time you have at your hand. If you're ready to spend 7 years of your life on getting a PhD, and if you think it's worth, then you can consider PhD. But if you want to do PhD in 3 years, but you also want to do it in US, then that's not going to happen. Then you need to change your tactics. Second thing is you also look at your financials. For instance, US universities mostly have a very high tuition fee. If you don't have a funding from an agency or from the university where you are selected, it's going to be a challenge to meet those. Plus, the living expenses in the country where you're going, suppose it's US, it's very expensive. But when you come to countries like Europe, for example, Germany, the public universities have no college fees, and the cost of living is very little. So, second aspect that you need to look is which fellowships I can target. If I'm applying to this university, I mean, do they have some kind of financial support for their students? Is that enough? How much extra funds I'll need in case I selected? So this is like your second criteria. Probably third would be your choice of. I mean, look at the work that the department that you're intending to go has done in the past. Does it inspire you? Does it match with what you want to do? Suppose you want to do machine learning and you end up in a school which do a lot of kind of impact assessment without like you can't see any paper on machine learning in their website, but you want to go there and start machine learning, PhD on machine learning topic. That's not how it works. So your research interest should go well with the research interest of the school where you are applying. This is not just the case of interest, right? It helps you how
Yeah.
to write your statement of purpose. Everything it is aligned in that way. In addition, you should also look into where you are going to live, which country you want to go. So all these aspects uh, should be taken into consideration. And a good way is to talk to someone who is already doing a PhD there or who has done a PhD in those universities or those countries, because you get the first-hand knowledge. Then think of which university or which places match all these criteria. But if you are not sure where you want to go, and if you want to keep your options open, then it's not a bad idea to prepare for GRE, TOEFL, and IELTS, because these preparations take time. It's not like that, I want to write a GRE and next day you book a test and then you write. It requires at least 6 months of solid preparation if you are good at math, or else even 1 year for both of us, even 1 year was not enough for preparing for GRE because we were also working. So if you are not sure, and having a GRE score is always a positive, there is no harm in it. So if you are not sure whether US is right or not for you, prepare for GRE. Have give GRE exam a lot before the admission deadlines, because most of them could not score well in their first attempt in GRE. You take 2 or 3 attempts to get a good score. And it's also a good thing to have IELTS and TOEFL scores handy when you're applying for, say, you suddenly see a call from particular university in Australia and the deadline is in 15 days and you think you have a better chance, but they ask for a TOEFL score and you don't have it. So to avoid those situations, I think it's good to prepare and have all these like checklist ready and then start applying. So I want to get your insights on one very important part of your application, that is a statement of purpose. So what is this statement of purpose? How is it different from CV, and how to write it? Can you share it from your experience?
Yeah. Okay. Before that, I just want to add something,
Mm-hmm.
because we were like talking a lot about disadvantages of US, but at the end, it's widely kind of
Yeah,
recognized
yeah,
in
yeah.
job market. If you
Mm-hmm.
have a US PhD, you have much better prospects in job market compared to PhD from anywhere else. It's not always true, because it depends on the kind of position you're applying for. But for highly academic positions, oriented positions, and US PhD is really good. It's a
Yeah.
good idea to go for a US PhD. And even for research positions, again, it's weighed against the kind of publications you have. But still, if you have a US PhD, you are better weighed against your peers from any other universities.
Yeah.
So that's something which I want to add. So for the US, like as Aditya was like mentioning, there are a lot of requirements. One of those requirements is, other than the GRE, the TOEFL. TOEFL is the language requirement, or GRE is another requirement for your math and English skills. Other is actually, while applying, one thing they ask is your SOP, or statement of purpose. There are variants of it called as academic statements. Few universities also ask for personal statements. So there is some variation in it. We have written few. I have applied for almost like 10 US universities. So I've written close to 10 SOPs. What basically SOP is, you could Google and read more about what SOP is, but
Yeah.
the thing, CV is basically curriculum vitae, which just put in bullets, what are your education background and those things. SOP is basically written brief essay of a page,
Mm.
stating out why you are interested in pursuing education there. That's
Yeah.
the whole thing. That's basically pitching why you want to do PhD with that department, how you fits
Mm.
there. So basically, you introduce yourself, who are you, and like not very much into detail about who are you, but rather than to where your academic interests are, how you think you fit into that, what's your vision, kind of thing. So that's like a brief essay on why you basically pitching yourself, advertising yourself, saying that why you want to do PhD there
Mm.
and how well you fits into.
Yeah.
So it's uh, you could find a lot of examples in websites on writing SOPs. But if you're applying for really top ranking universities in US, you could also get professional help in writing SOPs.
Mm. Mm.
So it's like, of course, I got a professional help for one of
Mm.
the university application. I got a professional help in writing SOP because as like Aditya was mentioning, it's really competitive. So like, so those things, small things, actually matters a lot.
Mm.
And SOPs, other than your GRE score, your TOEFL scores, which are like cutoff criteria, when they finally screen your application for final selection, then they go through your CV, then through your SOP. One important thing which they go through is your SOP, uh, which is actually very important. So,
Mm.
getting a professional help in that is very important, and you should write a good SOP. And again, uh, we like when we were both applying for this applications, we were thinking when we should write SOP. That was a thing because you should it's good to write SOPs in advance when you have a
Mm.
fair idea of where you're going, because by closer to the application you'll be, so all the application period in US mostly, if I'm not wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, Aditya, like something close to end of November to
Mm.
like February, March. That's
Yeah.
the application period for the uh, like, so they're like different like semesters, there are 2 3 summarize like fall and the different seasons in which US applications are invited. But the main application period, uh, advertisement happen in this period during like November to February, March. So you'll be like, if you're applying for multiple universities, you'll be into like applying for
Mm.
those. So it's good to have a SOP a couple of months before that at least, because you need to get a lot of editing, uh, get it proofread by people, get it edited well. So there are a lot of exercises involved in that. So that's again, you have to plan your GRE, TOEFL well ahead
Mm.
of that. So
Yeah.
you could see
Yeah.
that you have to actually time it accordingly to get all these things packed together. It almost takes 1 year of preparation to get to any
Mm.
PhD
Mm.
studies up. But that's the ugly part of doing the PhD abroad. Because you have to think in advance. It doesn't matter if you're in your, even if you're last year of your master's program or like last year of your bachelor's program, you'd still need to, you could start there.
Mm.
In our case, we were both working. So
Mm.
like we had this luxury a bit, but we took too much luxury. But
Yeah.
we had this luxury of preparing. Still, it was a struggle. Once you get into a job, um, we need to do both our job as well as prepare for these things,
Mm.
which was the biggest challenge, which I think we both faced uh, applying uh, for PhD positions abroad. But that's what I just want to share about SOP and the writing and the things around that. Should I answer something else with respect to that?
No, I think you pretty much covered it. I'd like to add a couple of um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
things to it. One is statement of purpose. You need not to repeat what is there in your CV, like saying my name is this and I did my master's here and I did my PhD, I did my bachelor's here, these are the courses I studied, I was like I got these awards. That is not your statement of purpose. That's the common mistake that even I did and most SOP writers do, because we don't know what to write. So in SOP, the focus is on like some things that they look for is how passionate this guy is. What are the skill set that he can bring into the table as a PhD scholar? What vision he has for himself in about his future career? So all these things you need to bring in, and without boring the reader. If you just say, I'm good at stata, I'm good at writing, uh, that becomes like too boorish, and no one will notice. So writing SOP, like it's you mentioned it, it's like advertisement for yourself, beating your own drum, but you need to do it well. You need to do it well enough to create that curiosity. You need to. It should read like a story. So it might sound easy, but it's not. It takes a lot of creativity. It will take more than the creativity. It take a lot of time. So keep thinking about it. What matters to you? Why you are in agriculture economics? Why you want to get into agriculture PhD? What is in it that particular school offers, which made you apply to that university? So all these things bundled in one essay. That's your statement of purpose. Second thing related to it, even your other universities also need, is a reference letter.
Mm.
Uh, Here also people have many doubts,
Yeah.
whom to approach to get a reference letter, and what should be in the reference letter, because most professors in India are not used to writing a reference letter, so even they may not be aware about how to write it and all those things.
Yeah.
Can you talk about it?
Okay, that's one of the biggest requirement if you are applying to PhD anywhere. So they always ask for some referee or like recommendation letter or reference letter. Uh, Question like ideally, this is like it's an untold fact. Ideally, if you know somebody who is known to that professor or known to the department which you are applying, is in your is related to you. If you have somebody in the network whom you have worked with or you are like studied with, if such a person writes your recommendation letter, that's a good thing. Like that stands out. Your chances get higher. It doesn't mean that you need to ask somebody who you have no idea about. The
Mm,
person should also know about your work.
mm,
When I say know about your work, it should be somebody who taught you some courses, or like it could be somebody who taught you some courses, or somebody who worked with for some substantial time. So they should be, and many people are so in many cases, people are very picky in even writing recommendation letters. Not
mm.
everybody gives you recommendation letter.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the people who are picky in writing recommendation letter, they have a reputation in the community, like in the research community. So if you get a recommendation letter from them, it has a lot of value.
Mm,
So if so very like even if for example a lot of people just randomly writes me a mail and asks me that sir, can you write a recommendation letter? So first of all, I would say that I'm not established that well in the society,
yeah.
like in the
Mm,
community, and I don't know you basically to
mm,
write a recommendation letter. So that's the thing, you cannot just ask a random person to write a recommendation letter. Ideally one like so usually they ask for two recommendation letter.
mm.
One ideally could be a professor with
Yeah,
a
yeah.
master's program or undergrad program which you did course with, who knows
Mm,
well about your education. A second ideally would be could be a researcher if you are already in your workspace,
mm,
or again could be another professor who you worked with.
mm,
Like
mm, mm,
that's completely fine. One thing, as Aditya mentioned, is that like uh, because in our Indian systems, people are not used to writing recommendation letter. So like a lot of recommendation letters, what we see is all about like praising you. Like for example, if it's a recommendation letter for Aditya, it's like Aditya is the awesome guy. It comes with because they are really they really like you because, but they wouldn't in a very like they kind of say all the positive stuffs about
mm,
Aditya. It kind of if there are too many good things in the letter, it kind of undersells the letter. So like it should be well balanced. You cannot ask me that. Doesn't mean that you should be critical about Aditya's work, but it should be well balanced, and actually it should look genuine when
mm,
somebody is reading it,
mm,
rather than
mm,
saying
mm,
he's the best student I have in my whole
mm.
life. That could be true, but then you should substantiate how he's the best
Yeah.
student,
Mm,
not just saying that he's intelligent, he's like punctual, like not those fancy adjectives, or like rather than just fancy adjectives, it's more about um, what he did, which you melt, like
Yeah.
what's experience
Mm.
they had. So this is not just for you. uh, why we are telling this to like you, maybe some professors are listening to this. Other than
Mm.
professors listening to this, in most cases there were cases where professors even asked us to write our own recommendation
Yeah.
letter.
Yeah.
So in many cases you might end up writing your own recommendation letters. In that case you should be, which is not ideally a good idea. But
Mm.
even if you are ending up writing a recommendation letter, then uh, like connected to some incident which like what makes you like stand out from
Mm.
the crowd, and why he thinks he's like a diligent student. What
Yeah.
what make him feel, maybe he knows that he might have told you that experience with you.
Mm.
Try to note it down on that. That was my own experience with recommendation letters. But I would strongly recommend, if you're like, that's an important thing, like to have good networks. So
Yeah.
if you're planning for a study PhD abroad, you should actually think well in advance. Like start developing networks abroad. So it's like start working and collaborating with people who are already studying, or
Mm.
like researchers abroad. Their recommendation letter matters a lot. Like that. I would also put the same question to you, Aditya. Like, what was your experience with recommendation letters?
Yeah, it's mostly like most of our experiences are like kind of common.
Mhm.
Uh, mm, but to emphasize the same point, there is no benefit in bluffing. You cannot ask some random person just because he's close to the university and
Mhm. Mhm.
X knows Y knows Z, and you're directly asking that person that can you give me a recommendation letter. That's not how it works. So he must, or he or she must have worked with you, know you very well, understands your work. Then only you can ask the recommendation letter. And the point is, um, maybe a kind of repetition. Um, just saying like he's the best, he's so good. You should take him as a PhD. I'm very sure that he will excel in whatever he does. So those kind of things won't help. So to give a concrete example, rather than like in one of my recommendation letters, I don't want to take a name. Instead of saying he is very good in statistical softwares and he is a good team player, my referee wrote like I taught him in a particular training program. It is a 10 days program. And in that program, we were using Stata, and Aditya was like the first person to do all those exercises. And after doing his own exercises, he was also helping the other participants who were there in the
Mhm.
team in doing their own exercises. And we had a presentation, and his group did the best presentation, and he was the one who presented. So this is
Yep.
how you write. You give a concrete situation. Maybe in a course, it might be a seminar that you did that impressed the professor. He could
Mhm.
talk about that particular seminar and why it stood out from
Mhm.
other
Mhm.
students, and why he thinks that you're gonna do well in your career. So so most probably, if you are getting a reference letter from India, you will be writing your own reference letter. So keep these things in mind. Make it as real as possible. I don't mean that you create fake situations and then write some incident because you have to, but definitely there will be some incidents which you could manage to impress the professor. So think through that and think what makes you stand different in the crowd. So that's what your reference letter should have. So
Correct.
I think we have covered statement of
Yeah.
purpose, recommendation letters, and all those things. I think the challenging part is what are the some sources for fellowships? How to look or how to hunt for fellowships?
That's the most challenging part, which we all struggled with, because as like Aditya said, one of the important component is that studies abroad is expensive. Uh, Exception, there are few exceptional countries like Germany. That's the reason why we
Yeah,
picked Germany,
yeah,
because here education is kind of free. There are a few countries where education is close to free. It's not completely free, but it's very
mm,
close to. It's completely free. Um, So you need a fellowship. Even if the education is free, you need to have your own expenses met. Like if you're from a really rich family, if you can sponsor yourself, good. But that which is not the same for most of us. So in that case, I need to find a fellowship. In US, one thing is that many US universities offer teaching assistantships and research assistantships. So they kind of employ you there and pay you, which kind of, and they with that it comes with tuition waiver. So you also get tuition waiver plus some fixed amount as a salary. So which is quite good to manage. So in US, you in most cases it's sorted through teaching assistantships or research assistantships. Not always. So I got through a university in US which they offered me a position, but without any assistantships. In that case, I had this dilemma that I could sponsor myself, which is actually really expensive in US. Irrespective of the ranking of the universities, all the US system is like really expensive. But if I could afford it, I would have joined a US university. People also, as Aditya said, people also actually do actually kind of get some loans, then go there, find a part-time job, which is people do that, but I would strongly, we also strongly recommend against it. It's a lot on you. So if it's not like, it's not, US is, as I said, like unless you're very much into, you need to get a degree from US. There are good enough universities in the whole world with good fellowships to apply for. Many countries have their own fellowships. Like, so there are fellowships from India even offered. So for example, if you're from in our Indian agriculture, like Indian agriculture system, ICR itself has a like Subash Chandra Bose fellowship, which Netaji Subash Chandra Bose fellowship. That's an international fellowship offered for like PhD students and master students. So then you have Commonwealth fellowship. It's offered for Commonwealth countries. If you're applying to any Commonwealth countries, you have Commonwealth fellowship. There are many such fellowships. It's actually, you have to spend some time to discover those fellowships, even offered by Government of India. Then there are like country level fellowships. For example, Germany has a DAD, DAD. So that's a scholarship offered from Germany. Then there are like other fellowships offered by individual countries. Japan has a fellowship. Australia, the universities have their own fellowship. Also, there is an Australian fellowship. CISRO. There are organizations offering fellowships. For example, in my case, my fellowship is offered through it's called as ATSEF Academy. It's actually it's from Germany. It's an academy set up to build a network between CGR institutes, German university, and like researchers from developing countries. That's the whole setup. So you have to find such fellowships to apply. It's just like hunt down those fellowships where it suits. So it involves a lot of groundworking, but if you're like it's a thing. Just explore them and keep on applying for that. That's how you go through. My experience with this is that US, of course, it was too competitive, but other fellowships also. I applied for DAD, but DAD, because of a criteria, we got screened out because there are like criteria. For example, DAD, there should not be a gap after your master's. Should not be a gap more than 6 years. So you should be aware of those nuances. Don't just assume that fellowship exists, but read them through or talk to a person who already has this fellowship to understand those details. And those fellowships also have a lot of requirements. So especially language requirements. You should be also aware of those things while applying. You would, like Aditya, would you like to add more to this?
Probably one of the thing is even some universities advertise their own PhD positions. When the department gets a new project, they usually write the PhD project with funding for 3 or 4 PhD students, and they simply advertise it. So in that case, the application process will be completely different. They don't ask you for a research proposal. They won't ask you for, most of the cases, maybe not even SOP. They just ask you how your experience matches with the project requirement. If the project wants someone from India, then you have a good chance. So it's not one stop shop where you can find all the information in one go. There is nothing like that. You just need to keep looking for it. And if you have a very strict timeline, like I want to do my PhD, I want to start my PhD within next 4 months, it's not going to happen. You need to wait, you need to find the projects, you need to as people say, stars needs to be aligned in a particular way, and you need to be in the right place at the right time. So it's all destiny. But one important aspect that I'd like to bring to your notice is network matters. Many of the times it's literally impossible for you to keep tab on all those hundreds of universities, of hundreds of fellowships in hundreds of countries. So have a good network. All the people you know, you should let them know that you are looking for a PhD position abroad. If you don't tell them, if you think like, he will talk about it and he might discourage me, and you want to keep it to yourself, then you will never find it. And other person, we don't have those magical skills to peep into your mind and understand that you might want to do a PhD. So if you want to do a PhD, all let your network know that you want to do a PhD. And probably that's the reason why you should be attending as many conferences as possible. With COVID, many of the conferences were online, and even now many of them are in hybrid. So you get to know different people in different universities, and just approach them. People are nice. If you approach them and just say them that I'm looking for a PhD position, and if you come across any, please do let me know. And people do contact you, people do share it. That's how probably we have got into these positions. Someone helped us in getting those recommendation letters, some others helped us with the university processes, somebody talked to some guys. So all these things happen. And so maintain your network. Professional network is very, very important. Second thing is, the world has
Aditya,
become...
I would also like to add to that point and
Yeah, sure,
re-emphasize it,
good. Sure, go ahead.
because that's something which I totally missed it, but that matters a lot. Like just letting people know that you are actually planning to do a PhD or like studies abroad. Many people would just share it with you, or else like follow the people in LinkedIn or in like Twitter. They actually tweets, and like, so that people who are doing PhD there, they keep on and like tweeting or like sharing call for in their universities. Also, like actually people are really nice. For me, for Aditya, like actually people came us and asked us, hey, there is this application, apply for this. That's the kind of, they know that like we were interested in doing PhD abroad, and there are people who actually told us, hey, apply for this. In my case, it was purely based on network. I just want to re-emphasize on that. So network doesn't mean that it doesn't start with like what you existing have. A lot of students actually take this courageous steps of writing it to a completely stranger in LinkedIn, just saying, hello sir, I'm just a student in this universities, and like I'm interested in doing studies abroad, could you help me with it? People are really nice, actually. They, many of us actually uh, actually help them out, kind of help out. But many might be hesitant initially. Like when you just drop them a message, they'll be a bit hesitant, because we get a lot of such applications, then we figured out that they're not genuinely interested. So people initially would look how much genuinely you're interested are, like are you really pursuing that passion. So many times when you write to them, if they are not responding, if they're just giving you, okay, yeah, I'll let you know, just if you can just keep on pursuing, then they'll help you out in most cases. Because they're also like, I have we have spent a lot of time in actually helping people out. Then they figured out they didn't even apply it for any university. Which
many times.
We are actually spending our own time for them. But then we, over period, we also lose interest in knowing that whether they are genuinely interested in or not. But so you need to push a bit. You have to be really pushy to get into those networks. It doesn't come automatically. But let your professors know. our university systems are very related. Everybody knows everybody actually. If you,
Yeah.
it's like everybody is well connected. Tell
Mm.
to your professors, talk to your seniors, or just Google and find out who's come across people who are doing it. Uh, feel free to contact them. You don't need to hesitate to contact them.
Yeah.
That's a point I just want to
Mm.
re-emphasize it. You may find it repetitive, but these are the points which actually we want to kind of emphasize it based on our own experiences.
Just a question to you. For example, one fine day you find a mail that someone wants to do a PhD, and it has like 4 or 5 attachments, and
Mhm.
you're not in you're already a professor. Do you open those attachments at one go?
Oh, good question. Because this gets back to, like, many times people complain that we wrote to a professor abroad in US and they didn't reply to it.
Mm.
I've seen those professors' inboxes. They get hundreds of mail per day, and many times they don't even have a time to just open it. Forget about attachment. They're not even reading your mail. So, like, that's a case which you should be very aware of. They don't have time to go through your things, right? So when you're writing, make it very brief. Like, make it brief to, like, get their attention. That's it. Once you get their attention in your, like, like in the follow-up communications, you could keep with more details. But when you're just contacting some person, just attach your CV. Don't attach, like,
Yeah.
all your certificates and all your achievements. Just attach your CV and just briefly write about what's the purpose you're
Mm.
contacting them. That's good
Mm.
enough to start with. Then they will ask
Yeah.
you, if they are genuinely interested, they'll ask you, okay, send me more of those
Even
details.
even probably not attaching CV is also fine,
Mhm.
because often with these AI tools, any unknown email with an attachment is usually flagged as a spam.
Mm, 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 mm,
And people are very, very skeptical in opening that document from an unknown
mm,
person's email ID. And you are not even writing from your school email ID. You're probably writing from your Gmail or Yahoo Mail with a fancy name. So they even me, I won't open those attachments. So if they are interested, if they read your mail, if you impress them, they'll ask for your CV and your all those things. Probably it's not a bad idea not to attach anything and just
Okay,
write.
okay,
Yeah, that's like one of the professor told me about this.
okay.
They said, like, if I see like so many attachments, I become suspicious
Mhm,
with this era of cyber attacks and everything. So I
mhm.
don't even open those.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
The best
I
thing
just
is
want to
to
add something.
approach through someone else, someone
Yeah,
who
yeah,
knows
yeah.
that person. That's the best part. Otherwise, keep it brief. Don't give them a sense that you are trying to steal their property.
Like, I just want to add two things when you said about, like, don't mail them from your fancy email ID. Like, I've seen them across email ID like cool guy at the rate gmail.com. Don't do that. It sounds very, it doesn't, it sounds very unprofessional. So if your email ID is cool, let it be. But when you're sending it like letter, like emails for PhD, just make your own like new email
Mm.
ID, which actually at least sound professional.
Yeah.
Just don't ask me what would sound professional. You know what sounds professional. Second one, like the last point which Aditya was mentioning is, like, if you already know somebody who is known to this professor, it's always good to write that person, hey, like, this person referred to
Mm.
contact you, which also gets you a lot of attention. Like, I always do that. If I know
Mm.
somebody is connected to that professor, I will talk to that person, and then in the mail I'll write it down. Actually, I spoke to
Mm.
this professor and he recommended you, which gets you a lot
Mm.
attention. That's if you have somebody from your network, it's good to do that.
Okay.
Or, like, if that person knows your professor from your universities, it's also good to write, hey, I'm doing like masters under him.
Mm.
So that's also gives you a lot of attention. Sorry,
Yeah.
I just want to make that point.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably, I think we are closing. Like, we have
Yeah,
five
yeah.
minutes more.
Mhm,
So one thing is, um, uh, the rejections are very common.
mm, mm,
So
mm, mm,
we used to call, like, the season of application is also a season of rejections, because um, the number of applications that you put in, similarly, you start getting back hey, you are really a very good candidate, but unfortunately, we can't take you in. Your CV is so impressive, but the competition is too tough. So there is nothing to be demotivated about it. It's just that they have a different requirement. Probably the geographical requirement doesn't match. They want someone to work in Africa, and they think you will struggle in the field when you go to that part. Or maybe your skill set doesn't match. They are looking for someone with a coding background, with a computer science background, with a math background, but you are going with agriculture background. So you just need to keep pushing and keep applying. So
Mm.
I told you before that both of us applied nearly like 15, 20 places, and we had like barely one or two selections. No matter how good you are, it's basically the law of probability, because for every like 3 4 seats there will be 100 people applying. So even if you take the base rate that you are better than them, even then the probability of getting picked is still very low. So
True.
if you want to reach that, you need to apply for large number of universities. So it's not like you might think you have a very good chance, you meet all the criteria in a place, but you cannot be confident and not apply for other places. It's okay. It's okay to have like 4 5 offers at your hand and reject 4 of them. It's fine. It's perfectly fine, because even I had 2 offers and I had to reject one of the fellowship and the university, because I thought that my present university is better for different reasons. It's better to have like 3 4 offers than having none. So don't hesitate from applying. Don't think that I have already applied to this, it is ethically not good to apply for some other place. It doesn't work that way. So apply as many places as possible, and one of those will be successful.
I just want to add my own experience. So it's again, for me, it was really rejection, 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 rejection through a long period. So
Mm,
then at the end, I got 3 acceptance at a stretch.
yeah.
So but then you need to pick it up. But I picked the first one because I was so scared at that point of time.
Mm,
Uh, because I was getting all the rejections throughout, I assumed that I had a good CV. But when so it's like I have a good CV, that I actually even wrote to the professors. It's like why I'm not getting through. But as Aditya said, there are many reasons. You're not the only good guy there. Which we realized when we came here. When I see my batchmates here, I could realize that why I was getting rejected, because the
mm,
batchmates I have here are really competitive. The kind of
mm.
experience they come up with, they're really good. They're the best from those countries, right? So like
Yeah.
competing globally, that's the thing.
Mm,
Again, what I just want to re-emphasize on what Aditya said, like just keep on applying. Something which don't stop yourself dropping a mail, applying for an university. Don't stop yourself. You just go with it.
yeah.
That's the point which I just want to emphasize before at the end. Just apply.
Yeah. Yeah. So anything you want to conclude with?
No, I actually would encourage you to apply
Yeah.
for it and pursue a study abroad, and also wish best of luck for the prospective applicants. And
Yeah.
it was nice having this conversation with you, Aditya. And I hope
Yeah.
this would be an useful conversation to listen to for the people who are planning to apply abroad.
Yeah, thank you so much, Subash. I think I really enjoyed it, and probably it was like a good plan not to have a kind of a structure for our talk, and we like even we found some new points that we haven't thought of before,
Yeah,
and I think that those who are watching this are either prospective students who would like to explore, or the teachers who would like to encourage their students to go abroad. I wish them best of luck, and if they need any information or any assistance, I think both of us are there for any kind of help that they need. So good luck.
yeah. Good luck.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.